Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm story expert and that kind of girl, Lani Diane Rich.
And I'm film scholar and anarchist, too backwards for the real world, Noelle LaCroix. And we're here today to talk about New Moon Rising, the 19th episode of Season 4.
New Moon Rising aired on May 2nd, 2000, and was written by Marty Noxon with Doug Petrie as story editor and directed by James A. Contner.
Still pretty, as you all know by now, I hope. If you're new, welcome. And now I'm telling you right now in this moment that Still Pretty is a fully spoiled Buffy podcast. We love to talk about what happens way down the line. Usually, we're going to talk about who dies, who doesn't die, who comes back from the dead. Does anyone come back from the dead? I don't actually remember. Anyway.
Do vampires count? Because, yeah.
Anyway, so you can follow along with me and be sort of surprised by the stuff you haven't seen or don't
Buffy
remember.
comes back from the dead. Wait a minute.
Oh, shit, that's right. That's like a whole
Does anybody ever come back from the dead? And I'm like, I don't know, vampires, but like that's a huge part of season.
Right,
that's actually
right. That's
all
kind of a big deal.
6.
And in musical form as well. Oh, man.
I know.
Oh, man.
It's early on a Sunday morning, man. I'm not not on top of it.
It's all right. It's cool. It's cool. But this is what you're in for. So if you haven't watched the show, all the way through, I'm not totally sure why you're hanging out with us, but I'm glad you're here. But brace yourself for spoilers because we can't stop and we won't stop unless we forget. You woke up to a big bowl of Wheaties and now you're a fugitive. So let's go on patrol. New Moon Rising opens with my go-to lesbian witch pickup line.
Do you like cats?
Tara wants a pet, but she also wants her room to be Willow-friendly, which Willow also wants, and I'm already in my feelings, everyone. As they walk to the Scooby meeting at Giles's, Tara and Willow hold hands for the first time on screen in a non-vending machine moving, non-rose floating, but still so magical way.
Aww.
At the meeting, Buffy says patrolling hasn't turned up much of anything, but Riley reports the initiative is lousy with demons these days. Everything's great until Oz walks in and asks if he can talk to Willow that night. Later, Buffy and Riley take down a demon while walking through the graveyard, and Buffy is disappointed by how easy it was to take him out. Riley doesn't care. He's just glad to get another HST for the retrieval team. Buffy brings Riley up to date on Oz and Willow, casually mentioning that Oz is a werewolf, and Riley reacts pretty much how you'd expect Riley to act.
Gotta say I'm surprised. I didn't think Willow was that kind of girl.
What kind of girl?
Into dangerous guys. She seems smarter than that.
Oz shows up at Willow's dorm and takes her outside for a walk under the full moon. Willow's excited for him, but things get weird when Oz says he talked to Xander, and he said that Willow didn't have a new guy. And she says no new guy.
I am a different person than when I left. And I can be what you need now. That's what I want. That's why I'm here.
While out patrolling, Graham and his team of initiative guys get attacked by werewolves. And not your glossy Southern California shampoo commercial werewolves either. These are some rode hard and put away wet werewolves. Meanwhile, Willow and Oz stay up all night talking in her dorm room, and he tells her about learning meditation techniques in Tibet that allow him to control the wolf. She suggests they go out for breakfast, and Oz proposes they stay in and sleep. Long, meaningful Ozian stare. Willow chooses the less confusing waffles and leaves to freshen up in the bathroom. There's a knock on the door, and it's Tara, who's rattled to find Oz there and leaves as quickly as possible. Willow comes back, and Oz tells her that her friend came by. At Riley's, Buffy starts to explain how some demons, like the occasional vampire, aren't evil at all. But then Forrest comes in with the news about Graham's team, and Buffy's window of opportunity to come out about Angel is out the door.
What kind of demon was it?
Does it matter?
Buffy comes back to the dorm to find Willow snuggling a stuffed animal. Buffy doesn't want to talk about her night. She asks about Oz. Willow tells her that Oz found a way to control the wolf, and Buffy's excited, but Willow says it's complicated because of Tara. Takes Buffy a minute to get it, and she's noticeably uncomfortable at first. That is, Willow notices Buffy being uncomfortable. Called in, Buffy takes a shaky flip and sticks the landing. Willow's worried about hurting someone, and Buffy tells her that's kind of unavoidable.
And the important thing is, you just have to be honest, or it's going to be a lot worse.
Adam shows up in Spike's crypt. Oh, come on. We have to talk about Adam in the midst of all this? Oh, fine. Fine. Adam shows up in Spike's crypt and promises he'll get Spike's chip removed if Spike kills Buffy. Willow goes to Tara's and tells her that she and Oz were just talking all night. Tara tells Willow she'll still be her friend no matter what. Willow is emotionally flooded and doesn't know what to do, and Tara tells her to do what makes her happy. Because Tara is magic. Later, Oz smells Willow coming down the hallway, but it's not Willow, it's Tara. And unlike everyone who's been here the whole time and seen Willow and Tara together on multiple occasions, Oz sees the nature of their relationship, and he does not handle it well.
Oh, stop! Is she in love with you?
Oz goes all woofy and chases after Tara, who is damseled once again, but the initiative comes in, hits Oz with a tranq gun, and takes him away. They say they'll put him down if they discover he's one of the wolves that attacked Graham's team the other night, and Tara tries to explain that he is a person, but no one will listen to the little girl. And this world does not deserve Tara! Tara finds Willow in the library and tells her what happened. Willow runs off to Giles's, where Buffy tries to call Riley with no luck. Meanwhile, Oz is in a cage in the initiative. Riley's about to shoot him when he turns back into Oz, and the scientists take over, pumping him full of drugs and doing tests to see how they can make him woofy. At Giles's, Buffy's trying to figure out a plan to get her, Xander, and Willow into the initiative to save Oz when Spike shows up, saying he'll show them the way.
So what's the going rate in a wild goose chase, Spike?
I can get you in. No alarms, no cameras, no waiting.
Oz is in an initiative cell, naked, shaking, and bruised when Riley comes in to get him out. As they're making a stealthy escape, Forrest and the guys turn the lights on and catch them. So now both Riley and Oz are locked up. Riley's commanding officer asks him to help him take Buffy and her band of merry anarchists out, or Riley's military career is over. Adam is Spike's man in the chair, and he gets the back door open. Anya is Buffy's man in the chair, and she shuts down the power grid with Giles' help. Buffy holds Riley's commanding officer at crossbow point and gets his credentials to release Riley, but it's a standoff in the hallway with the initiative guys. The officer tells the guys to stand down, and they get Oz out of his cell. As they're leaving, the commanding officer has final words for Riley.
You're a dead man, Finn.
No, sir. I'm an anarchist.
Buffy sets Riley up with camping gear and the charred remains of the high school. Riley apologizes for what he said about Oz and Willow, and Buffy tells him about Angel. In Oz's van, Oz and Willow say their goodbyes as Oz realizes that the thing that brings out the wolf in him is Willow. At Tara's apartment, Tara is sitting alone in the dark when there's a knock on her door. It's Willow.
I feel horrible about everything I put you through. And I'm gonna make it up too. Starting right now.
Oh my god, I love that ending so much.
It's so good. It's so
God.
Oh my
All
God.
right, Noelle. So here we are with New Moon Rising, and I am curious to know, what did you think? Did you like it?
Oh my God. So the lesbian subtext is now text. The cat is out of the
Yay!
bag.
Yay!
I mean, this week in gay stuff, the whole gosh darn episode, I mean, like, which is so great. I mean, and what I love, there are so many things I love. Like, take a sip of your favorite hydrating beverage every time I say the thing I love about this episode. But I love it that it starts with the previously on. You know, it's like previously, vending machine, rose floating, I am, you know, yours. And then you're like, oh my God! And here they are walking together. And the first line of the episode after all of this, like, very intense Willow Tara interaction is, do you like cats? And I love that Tara, who's kind of like, I mean, we say all the time that she's too good for this world. I mean, Tara is.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. But I love that she's talking about getting a cat in the dorms. And Willow's like, is that allowed? And Tara's like, well, no, not really. But it'll be a sneaky cat.
Oh my God, I love her so much.
And then their conversation about it being a familiar versus a pet. And then they start talking about the cat like it's already their joint custody cat. It's so good. It's so good.
Sweet.
It's so queer. It's so wonderful. Willow's not allergic. That was really what the, you know, this bid for connection was. And then Tara says, good, because I want my room to be Willow friendly. And Willow says, me too. And then they hold hands. And this is not a drill, people. Like, we have actual hand holding.
No more subtext. Yep.
No more subtext. It's so
Yay.
good. It's so good. I'm going to try not to be shrill or at least like lean back from my microphone when I
Every time you
squeal
have to
with
squeak,
lesbian delight.
yes.
Oh my God. Squeals in lesbian is just like my entire description. That is what I should have had as my identifier for this episode.
Right. Squeals and lesbian.
Squeals and lesbian. It's so good. It's so good. There's so much. I mean, I love Willow and Tara's relationship. Full stop. I love how good they are to each other. I love the way they continue to communicate with each other, even when stuff is really hard or really confusing. I mean, this is the big, I shouldn't say the big feelings episode, but this is a big feelings episode. When I think about what this episode is about, this is an episode about feelings. Like, with a capital feelings. And I love that. I mean, I'm here for feelings always. But I love the complexity of this conflict. And it's because it's so real. It's so real. I mean, even without the queer storyline becoming textual on the show in this like really powerful way.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. I mean, Willow's big feelings about Oz coming back and it being complicated because of Tara. This is some like Joan arbitrating the weakness in me level internal conflict. Like this is... And
it's really, I mean, it's so wonderful. I mean, it'd be wonderful anyway. Like, generally, love triangles, most people don't like them. I actually do. When everybody in the love triangle is great. You know, when it's not like clearly one person's a loser and, you know, the person should choose the one. I think it's really, really interesting. I love the additional conflict of nobody knows. And Tara is just, I am, you know, yours for now, right? And that's it, you know? So there's that whole like keeping it secret. There's this whole transitional space for Willow. And I know that there is a lot of general upset about the idea of this being bi erasure. Like she touches a woman and now she is lesbian. But I think that's how she defines, and we should, I don't know, I probably shouldn't speak to that as a straight person. Maybe I should. Maybe this is my moment to shut the fuck up. How did I
mean, okay, so I managed to reference a song that was 20 years old before this episode aired, when this episode aired. But I also feel the need to mention that the emotional complexity of the situation in this story feels contemporary and resonant now, 20 years after this episode has aired, because, hats off to Marty Noxon. Really.
She's amazing. I love her so much.
It really is in the writing. And I think that what the show ends up doing with Willow's sexuality over the course of the rest of the series, there's some bi erasure there, including some, I would say, self-erasure, which is super common, honestly. That is a thing that people experience. But also, I don't know, sexuality is fluid, gender is fluid, all of these things. It's one big, flowing river of change. That's not a very good metaphor. But I like... If we're going to look at the sexual identity piece of this episode in isolation, I think it's handled absolutely beautifully, because there are feelings for Willow. There are all kinds of feelings going on, and it's not this cut and dry love triangle that we so often see, where one person is this glorious paragon of romantic partnership and the other person is a total douche nozzle, and this is somehow presented as a choice that the character has to make. He literally went all over the world for her, to work on himself.
So he could be better for her.
So he could be with her because he loves her so much. That's the
dream. Without the expectation, though. What I love is that he comes back and he's not like, I'm here, baby, I'm just going to claim you.
Right.
He talks to her about it, and he's, he checks in with Xander to be like, am I, stepping in on something, right?
Which is super weird, though. He's like, I asked
a
Xander,
weird.
and I'm like,
I asked Xander for your hand in marriage. Exactly. As the man.
Right. But also,
although Xander is also her best friend, so, And
Xander is also the only one who acknowledges Oz in a concrete way. Xander comes over when Oz is, Oz shows up at Giles's. Xander comes over and shakes his hand and cracks a joke. But I think it really is in this kind of there is a camaraderie there, and it is just
a welcome back.
Oh God, that moment too of there's this beautiful reaction 3-beat of Oz walks in as Giles is reprimanding Anya. The Giles Anya stuff, unfortunately, I think gets kind of lost in all of everything that's going on in this episode, but it's wonderful.
I love them.
They're fantastic. But Oz walks in, and then there's this 1, 2, 3 reaction of, oh shit, it's Oz. And Allison Hannigan's silent mouth acting when Willow sees Oz in the doorway is just it feels so real. It feels so accurate. This person that she hadn't forgotten about, but as she said, she goes on to say it later on, she's having this experience with this other person that is so powerful and so different. And not just because it's queer, but, Tara is a different kind of relationship, but she still loves Oz. And then to see him and it's all, and Tara's sitting right there, and I can't, I lose the ability to.
It's so great. It's so
amazing.
Great. But can I ask you a question about it?
Absolutely.
Because what I see, of course, from my very straight perspective, so I really want to hand this over to you. But the question that I have is that I think what makes this so great is that it's not written here is our queer relationship. It is, here are all of these wonderful human people who are having a human experience the same way as if it was a straight relationship, which is what we see in heteronormative storytelling. So for me, from my perspective, I look at that and I think, yes, thank you for treating all of these characters like they are people first rather than capital Q queer. Is that how it reads for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I think it still feels
Relevant,
really resonant and contemporary, even 20 years later, it's just, these are just people in relationship. It's not, we're not like throwing up a huge rainbow banner. It's like, you know, this is like Tara and Willow are together now. And we're just letting that exist without, you know, without putting all of like the flashing lights around it. Now, part of the problem, of course, part of the complexity of what happens in this episode is because there were no flashing neon lights, like nobody figured it out, really. Like it takes Oz, like the werewolf has to figure it out because
the werewolf has been there for 15 minutes.
He's been there for 15 minutes. But I'm going to make fun of it because it is I'm like, really? Like no one noticed that Willow is spending a lot of time with
other than Faith. Faith picked it up right away.
Faith is like, oh, I see the nature of this relationship.
Exactly.
But yeah, no one notices. And of course, part of that is intentional on Willow's part because she's having this internal coming out experience and this, you know, everything is new and different and it's really wonderful and exciting, but also like you can see her not really knowing how to wrap her mind around what's going on with Tara, which I think is a thing that is relevant to all relationships when you connect with someone on a level that maybe you didn't expect to connect on. Does that make sense? Like if someone sees something in you, like if you have, and I think this happens in non-romantic relationships too. I think this happens in friend relationships and, you know, family relationships. Somebody will see something in you that you didn't realize you needed to have seen and acknowledged. So Tara sees Willow and is like, you're a really powerful witch. And, you know, essentially, and Willow's like, oh, holy shit, yes, I am. And I want to be seen and acknowledged for that magical power. So, yes, I got off my original line of speechifying.
No, I love it.
I got off my original line of speechifying about, you know, how like part of the reason, and this is why, like, fucking Marty Noxon, I love it so much. It's so complex because on the one hand, you do sort of feel like, really, guys, like nobody figured it out. But also, Willow is just figuring it out herself.
Yes.
And she straight up says, like, I like having this thing that nobody knows about.
That is just for her for this moment.
That's not
and
about
she has a
being,
right to that.
Yeah, that's not about being the support person for Buffy, because that's something we've talked about a lot on this podcast, that Willow is a great support person for Buffy, and their friendship is incredible in a lot of ways. And this relationship with Tara is an opportunity for Willow. I think I get the sense that this is Willow feeling like the protagonist in her own life for the first time.
Yes. Yeah, right. Not the sidekick.
Yeah. So,
and as her power grows as well. You know?
Yeah. So it's so richly layered, and I love it so much. And I think it's a little bit goofy that Oz is the one who like immediately figures it out. But I also kind of love the way he figures it out.
He does. Yeah.
And I love the way he figures it out. Like you can see registering on I'm blanking on his name. Seth Green.
Yes.
I love the way you see registering on Seth Green's face that Oz is figuring it out. He's like, wait, I saw you at Giles's. Wait a second.
Right. When she comes to the room after Willow goes to the bathroom, right? You can see there's a look on his face where he's like, huh, like he's taking in the data. He knows something's up. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, he's picking up on things in a really nice way, and I like that he does. It shows, again, like that he is so connected to Willow and that he pays attention to her.
Yes.
You know, and I love that she is the star of the show in his world. You know, like she is the main player on the stage. And I've always loved that about Oz.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really does make it a difficult situation for Willow. Like, I feel her struggle because he comes back. So not only does this person that she has been, you know, that she feels incredibly connected to, has been missing, who left, you know, like left her just like brokenhearted.
Yeah.
He's like, I have to go. And she's like, really? You have to? Like, she is so heartbroken when he leaves that first time. And so then to have him come back and this is the thing she wanted.
Yeah.
Except not anymore. And it feels
know.
It's like, this is how you do a love triangle, essentially.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, this
is how a love triangle is done well. People hate love triangles, and for good reason, because they're done shitty a lot of the time. But when they're done well, when everybody involved is awesome and you are actually experiencing the internal conflict along with the person who's the pinnacle of the triangle, that's beautiful. And that's a wonderful like story to explore. I love that.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. There are a couple of little things too that I just love as we're like letting all of this love triangle-ness kind of work itself out in this episode. We get this fantastic little, like, I want to call it like an oral Easter egg when Riley and Buffy are walking in the cemetery and Buffy says Oz and Willow had a rough breakup, and then there's this growling and I'm like, it's pretty much what happened.
Although Veruca's dead, but it was like, you know, the ghost of Veruca.
Right, the ghost of Veruca. He's like, who even?
Yeah.
But that delights me. Willow and Oz walking outside. I mean, there's a lot of walking outside in this episode. I did not do my research. I didn't take the time to like track all of that. But of course it starts with,
well, we have Buffy and Riley and
and Willow and Tara open the episode walking together. And then Oz and Willow, and it's a full moon, of course. And he says, I guess you stopped keeping track of them after I left. I'm sorry. This is one moment that really pulls me out of the episode. I refuse to believe that Willow Rosenberg, budding witch in love with Tara McClay, witch from birth, would not know it was a full moon. Pulls me right out. Right out.
Yeah, I completely I think you're absolutely right. The only thing is that Oz isn't Wolfie. And so it can be, and with all the distraction from Oz showing up, like I believe that she would know, I believe that maybe for a moment she just kind of forgot that it was a full moon, you know, rather than like she stopped keeping track because the boy was not there, you know. It
was also in the days before astrology apps when you could like really trivially know what the moon was doing at any given time.
Was doing,
but I mean,
but still,
I'm sorry.
A witch would know. A witch would know.
I have friends who text me and say, when are we getting our period? You know, like that's that's the witchy perspective I'm coming from. So whatever, it's fine. But it's a beautiful moment because we get to see the development of this conflict for Willow because she's so excited and then she hugs him.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, again, Allison Hannigan. Their bodies touch and she's been elated. They hug. And you see it register on her face. Like they touch and you can just feel all of that like sense memory coming back of, again, like this is the thing I wanted, right? This is the person I thought I wanted. And I'm feeling some of those old feelings, but it doesn't quite feel the same. And it's this small moment of performance. And the music helps, of course.
Yes.
But, oh man, it's just... I can't not be in my feelings in this episode. That's the whole thing.
I love it. It's a great episode, and it is so. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like the emotional weight in this episode is so, and part of it is that Allison Hannigan is this like you give her an emotional thing to do and she will fucking do it. Like,
oh my God,
she's unbelievable. Her ability to connect with that emotion and to express it physically and on her facial expressions is like Willow never cries alone with me. Like if Willow cries, I'm crying. It's just
pretty
always
much.
that's how it goes.
And
Yeah.
I think
really
there
good.
is I want to say there's like a global community of us too, right? But like at any given moment, if you are watching Buffy and crying because Willow is crying, like someone else is crying with you. This is just how it works. This is
Willow
how we
never
know we're
cries
community.
alone.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. But, it's funny. Like, I talk a lot about Allison Hannigan and her abilities as an actor. And she's incredible. But there are no weak links on this show at all.
True.
I mentioned Seth Green doing Oz, sort of slowly figuring it out. I saw you at Giles's yesterday. And he's like putting it together. Like, why would these two ladies be hanging out in the same place at the same time?
Yeah.
But then when Buffy comes back to the room and Willow, we see this like really, really complicated, like internal, oh my God, I have to say out loud this thing about Tara. You can see her, she has figured it out for herself, but you can see that she's never said it out loud to anyone before. And that is that's full body goosebumps kind of moment. Yeah. And then Buffy doesn't know, like Sarah Michelle Gellar, again with the physical performance, like doesn't know what to do with her hands, doesn't quite know how to stand.
It's great, Will. No, that's good, Will.
Yeah,
that's
fine,
great, Will.
There are so many moments throughout the series, but I think of this episode in particular where on the page, I can't imagine the lines looked like a whole lot. Yeah. And it was really up to the actors to make a lot of these choices. Now, I know, directors are influential here as well. And there are, writers do put directions in screenplays and teleplays for actors. But there's a lot of the subtlety in the facial expressions, in the physicality that just communicates that. The depth of the emotion so well. And all of these actors who are all very young, incidentally, when they're doing this, like this is not, it's a series of very mature performances from people who are relatively young in the grand scheme of things. And I'm just like, it just impresses the hell out of me. The combination of the writing with all of this care that has been put into telling this story about identity and relationship and the conflict of getting what you want, but then realizing that maybe it's not what you wanted.
Or it's not what you want Joss anymore. Whedon does that really well. Give somebody what they want. Absolutely. Because it always ends up being a monkey's paw,
Oh my God. Or so a werewolf's paw, as it were.
Or a werewolf's paw, if you will. Yes.
Oh my God. But then, okay, there's something I don't know what to do with in this episode that I am sure you will have feelings about, because I've read your script. It's this conversation between Willow and Oz at the end where they're sitting in the van and he said, and it's the "you bring it out of me" stuff.
Yes.
And then the like, it's my fault. What are we doing here? Like, it's my fault. I upset you. Yeah. Which, by the way, is pretty much verbatim what abuse victims say to try to take some control over the situation when they're finding themselves abused. And you bring it out in me, why do you make me, didn't we go through this in Beauty and the Beast in season 3, right? You bring this, you make me into a beast. This right.
thing. We already played this scene with acknowledgement and understanding that wasn't okay. And then to have it said from both Willow and Oz, who are are people who usually see things in the right way, in the way that they should be seen. To have them both kind of slide into that narrative at the end is a bit of an all caps moment for me in the script. You might say it was an all caps. Oh my God, I cannot even with this 50 points from Gryffindor, So it's one of these things. I mean, in this circumstance, like Oz is not an abuser,
Right.
But the idea that he goes all woofy and oh, well, that's good because we know you'll never upset me. That he can control his wolf, under the full moon, which is the influence that brings out the werewolf, the mystical thing that does it, right? He can control that, but he can't control, being upset about Willow. So I think it's supposed to be romantic, and that idea that like, this, I beat you because of the love, because I love you so much is why I hit you, and it's your fault and you bring it out of me and all this kind of stuff that I find highly upsetting. At the same time, given the context of everything else in this episode, I usually do tend to kind of let it go, like, it's not the message that it was intended. It is a message that we get a lot and something that definitely needs to be looked at critically. But in an episode where so much else was so beautifully, beautifully done, it's not one of those things where like you're hit with this the whole way through and then I end up having a rage episode, like I for this, like it is an all caps moment for me, and calling it out, but I think I can let that go, especially because what the rest of the episode does is so beautiful and so wonderful, and Tara is too good for all of us. Nobody deserves Tara. Like, she is so wonderful in this episode, and I absolutely freaking love Amber Benson's portrayal of her. I love the way that I want my room to be Willow friendly. I love when they're in the Scooby meeting and Willow is over explaining. She's scoop-splaining to Tara through the whole thing, which is sweet. Just kind of adorable. But I also love that Tara is officially a Scooby. She ran the spell last week with Giles. That was her initiation. She is in. I love it. I love her being officially a part of things, and now we're pulling her in, and also the coming out in this episode that we understand textually, what's going on and what the relationship is with Willow and Tara. I love all of it, and I mean, even as they're taking Oz away after he has attacked her, right? Oh my God, she tries desperately to get somebody to listen to her, which of course it's Forrest, so he won't because she's a woman, right? She tries to explain, no, he's a person, like this thing that just tried to kill me because I am sleeping with his ex-girlfriend. That's a very complicated situation. And had Tara not said anything, it definitely would have been wrong. But she is working so hard to save the man who just tried to kill her. I love all of it. And my new daily prayer is, may I someday be a human being who could possibly be worthy of Tara McClay. I'll never get there, but I think it's really good to have lofty goals.
Tara, I mean, the Tara appreciation, or the Tara appreciation,
yes,
is so strong here. Yeah. I mean, I love her advocating for Oz when he's, a werewolf, and
then rushing to find Willow to save him. I love that.
Yes, and there's so much that's so good in terms of like conversations that don't need to be had. Like, Tara is a Scooby now, and maybe there was a conversation about, hey, Tara's a really powerful witch and she ran the spell and kicked ass, and maybe we should like just keep her around all the time. I don't know, maybe that happened, maybe it didn't, but I love that we just like fold her into the group in this really beautiful, seamless way. I love everything about Tara in this episode. I love her trying so hard to be cool around Oz when she is obviously not cool. Her little, he sees her in the hallway and he says, hey, and she's like, hey, in this way that it's like I am trying to be casual and nothing, and my affect is casual right now. And this is so goofy, but I appreciate the fake out with Tara throwing the chair at Oz. Like, I know that it's just that timing of the initiative happened to hit him with the trank dart at the same time that she hit him with the chair. But first of all, fair play to Tara, like good throw.
Yeah.
I appreciate this half second where we think like maybe Tara has done something like
has
physically badass.
Vending machine to that chair in a way that,
Right. But then, oh my God. And then, of course, Forrest won't give her the time of day. Forrest says, you're in shock, but then leaves her alone.
Yes.
You don't leave someone in shock alone. Like, don't the initiative, like, okay, the initiative has a giant tinfoil pit, right?
Yes.
Don't they have, like, medics? Or at least,
or a
like,
warming blanket, or somebody to deal with the victims of these attacks when they happen. Yeah.
Okay, so presumably civilians occasionally see things that the initiative is trying to do.
Right.
Do they not have like a Men in Black flashy thingy? Like nothing? They're just going to walk away with werewolf like NBD?
I think the world building is, and we've seen this because we've had a lot of civilians, pre-initiative who have witnessed things, and they always explain it away. That the mind rationalizes what it has seen into something that it can understand, and most people can't understand vampires and demons and all that kind of stuff. So I think that like the initiative is probably playing into that phenomenon, and just leaving people in their shock to rewrite their memories and do it themselves. They'll do their own, like
tra-la-la, nothing to see here. As we
the flashy memory thing is actually built into the psychological operating system of humans. So we'll just do it ourselves. Okay. Yeah.
Whoa.
I guess. It kind of is, though. It kind of is.
You trying to tell me that I flashy thinged myself all those times when like something
I flashy thinged myself a million times. Yes.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah,
okay.
we kind of do it to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So but speaking of performances, not that we were we were a while ago, and now I'm looping us back around because that is how you do a seamless transition.
That's right.
Is Amber Benson doing like a thing with her posture as Tara?
Yeah, I think she is.
It's so fascinating. Tara's overall look is very soft. Like she wears pastels and flowy things and lots of light denim and long skirts. And yes, I know it's like the early aughts, and that's what a lot of people were wearing. But then her upper body just looks so rigid a lot of the time. Particularly when she and Willow are walking together until they hold hands. And then it's like her whole affect just softens. There's something going on. I mean, like, I guess my question really is, did anyone else notice this? Is Amber Benson just a fucking genius actor and I somehow didn't know? Like, until this viewing?
I thought it was just, like, when I first started, when Tara first started coming in, I thought that Amber Benson was just holding herself awkwardly, that she was just extremely conscious of her arms, like all the time, because it kind of feels like that. But then you do see that she relaxes and like in the same way that she's got the stutter sometimes, and then it goes away. Like it goes away when she's confident. It goes away when she's doing a spell, when she's in her element. And so you really do kind of see her physically representing an awkwardness with Tara, where she almost seems to feel at odds with the world, except under certain circumstances in certain contexts, when they're doing a spell, when she's with Willow, when she's comfortable with Willow. Like, so I think it is a conscious choice that Amber Benson makes. I think it's really interesting.
Fascinating. It's fascinating. I can't immediately call to mind another instance of this in performances that I've seen, and I love it. But it is fascinating to watch. Like she looks like you almost want to like shield her from the world.
Yeah.
There's like oh, like you don't know, like you don't quite belong
Let me wrap
here.
you in bubble wrap, my poor little darling. Yes.
Right? I mean, and that same kind of softening of her affect also happens vocally at a couple of key points in this episode in particular, actually, when Willow tells Tara that nothing happened, even though she and Oz were together all night. And Tara just has like all of the feelings under the surface.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, and you see her physically relax. And then she says, really? And this like really like, I don't really want to let myself believe that, but I trust you. It's, oh my God, it's so good. I freaking love this episode, y'all. I love it so much. And then at the end, oh my God, the ending of this episode it is Noelle catnip. Like if you want to make something that I will just worship, oh my God, I want to roll around on the floor and kick my feet in the air to the end of this episode. She's that little oh yes that she says at the end, and it's like a sigh of relief and delight and arousal all at the same time in two words. And I mean, I guess I just have to call it right here. Amber Benson, genius actor, y'all.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's really wonderful.
But the end of this episode, Lani, I can't.
I know.
I have to say, I am terribly envious of those of you who got to watch this unfold in real time.
Oh,
like,
can you imagine having to wait a week for the next Buffy episode?
Oh my God.
I don't think I would have
after that
made
candle, right now,
Oh
and then
my
the
God.
candle, and you're like, oh my God, they're doing this thing.
I know,
But,
I love
I mean-
that moment so much. I love
I mean,
that
and
moment.
you know,
Mhm.
yeah. But you're absolutely right, because to be honest, I was also hanging on every word of the Tara Willow dialogue this morning. So if I had seen this at 17, I probably would have exploded.
I think maybe you might have.
Yeah.
I think maybe you might have. It might be a little bit too much. But yeah, no, when I got into Buffy, it was after the show had ended. The first time I watched it. So I got to just binge it, with the DVDs back in the days of Netflix DVDs. Yes, that's how old I am.
Oh, and they would send you the little red envelope.
The little
and then
red
you had to-
envelope, yep.
Yeah.
And then I would put watch the first DVD, then I'd throw it in the mail and start binging the other two so that I'd get the next one as quickly as possible.
Right.
And try to watch them all at once, because it was
Oh, man.
it was an obsession. It really, really was. But here's the thing though with Tara. Is have we gone an episode, and I think maybe we have one or maybe two episodes that have Tara in them in which she has not been damseled, because she gets damseled constantly. It's like Giles getting knocked out in season 1. Like every time Tara is damseled, and I'm like, ugh, can we not?
I mean, I don't know. I'm racking my brain, but of course I can't remember anything because I'm still hanging on the right now.
Right now. Oh God, I love that so much. I know. I don't know. I gotta go through and do a Tara damseling count. But
for sure.
But yeah, it's something that after a while I'm like, oh my God, could we just not, please? But anyway, Tara of course is way too good for the world, and so of course she must be threatened by it constantly to like really show us all that deep vulnerability or whatever. I don't know. It's a bit much though. I get a little tired of it. She's been attacked constantly. And if I was her, I would just walk around with a baseball bat, just always, because something's going to be coming out after.
It's so interesting because sometimes, like even as she's being chased and terrified, she manages to like lob a spell. Not in this episode, but she we kind of don't give her credit for that because she like literally is always being chased by the monster.
Yeah, didn't she fog up the place in Hush, and then they did the vending machine together? So, yeah, but she's been kind of helplessly damseled a couple of times.
Yeah.
So her helplessness is when she's throwing spells. I'm like, okay. Okay, she's a bad bitch. She can do it,
Oh, for sure.
But when we're just like, oh no, Tara, it's one of those things that like after a while it gets a little old.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
But
I mean, in this episode specifically, it feels important because we have a reason for it here. Yeah, we have a great reason for it. That relationship with between Oz and what Tara means to Willow. Like, I love the way he says, "Is she in love with you?" Like,
yes. I also love that he's not upset because Tara's a woman. You know, like that doesn't seem to be an issue for him at all, which I really, really appreciate.
Yeah.
You know, it's that like that he would have reacted the same way if she had been a man, you know, if Tara had been a man that Willow was with. So I actually really like that it is, as for Oz, he doesn't seem to blink an eye that it's a woman. Like, that's not an issue for him at all. And I really, really appreciate that. And it's, of course, one of the things that makes me love Oz even more. And I always, always super love Oz.
Yeah, the anger and frustration that Oz feels, or the you know, emotional floodedness that Oz feels, is not about, and she left me for a woman, which is something that we do see in fiction, especially in the early aughts, which is real depressing. You know, it's not this like, I have to be violent and scary because my manhood is in question. It literally is. Yeah. Oh no, not only are they involved, but they're in love. And that for Oz is just too, like, he just can't handle it. But it's interesting because you mentioned, you know, if Willow's new sweetheart were a guy, would this play out in the same way? I don't think it would. I don't think it would at all.
I don't know. I think that Oz's reaction, I think there are things that, because Tara's a woman, that affect the way in which the story is told. But I feel like Oz's reaction would have been the same if it had been a guy.
He would have figured it out a lot sooner, though, because, you know,
everybody would have figured it out.
Yeah, because
it's a
heterosexuality
space.
Goggles.
Exactly, hetero goggles are always on. So I think that you know, that surprise of it, I think, is because of the context of it being, you know, a gay relationship. But I think that Oz's reaction would have been the same, because that's how, you know, I mean, well, I don't know, how did he react to Xander? Right? He just walked away with Xander. Yeah. He didn't go wolfy on Xander.
True.
Yeah, but he also hadn't been suppressing the wolf on Xander. Right. He couldn't control it either.
Right.
So, yeah, it's interesting. But I do think that we don't have that moment with Oz where he's like, but you're a girl, you know, or like all that, or like, you know, where he's like, oh, she left me for a woman, and that somehow says something about my masculinity. Like, he didn't make it about him. And I liked that. I appreciated that we didn't have that in this. But another thing that, you know, we had in this episode that I didn't really care about was the whole Spike and Adam thing.
Oh, dear God.
It's not a big storyline here that Spike is now working with Adam to gain the trust of the Scooby so he can thwart the day away. But, you know, it's happening. Like, this starts in this episode. And the thing that I find really funny is that, you know me, right? I am delighted every time Spike is on screen. But Adam's charisma dampening effect even works on James Marsters. Like, that's how strong this shit is. And these are the only Spike scenes, I think, in the entire run of the series, not including season 5 of Angel. There's some Spike scenes in season 5 of Angel that I also don't care about. But like, I don't care. Like, during these moments with Spike, it is a Spike scene and I don't care. That's how bad Adam is.
Yeah, that's intense. There's some great Spike, though, when he shows up at Giles's. And that, flirty little someone dangerous could get in. I was like, ooh, Spike and Giles.
I know, I like it. When Buffy's like, someone formerly dangerous and currently annoying, you know? And he just gives her that little look. Oh, my God.
I love that look. He's so sassy. He's so sassy. But you're right. Like, when Spike and Adam are together, I'm like, oh, my God, make it stop.
I don't care. Like, I don't care. And that is so strange. Like, I never realized before that there is a scene with Spike in it, and I don't care. And I'm like, that just speaks to how bad Adam is, and how much I don't care about Adam. Nobody cares about Adam. Adam is terrible. Like, in every
has a
possible
door
way.
In the side of his head that connects to coaxial cable. Did you notice that?
Yes. Oh,
that was that.
Oh,
I'm like,
oh yeah. You know,
it's
they
like
didn't
a
have
parody of
Bluetooth
itself.
back then. Yeah. No, I mean, my favorite thing is, you know, from the episode a couple of episodes ago where he's just like consuming zip drives in his pectorals. You know, it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's the whole Adam thing is just full on nutty. I guess too, speaking of things I don't care about, we could talk a little bit about Riley. Right?
But
I mean,
but how do you feel? There is one Adam line, probably in the whole run of Adam, that I do love.
What is it?
He says Scout's honor.
Boy Scout.
And Spike says, you were a Boy Scout? And Adam says, parts of me.
Parts of me. Yeah, actually, no, that is. Although that makes me wonder, though, like, does he is made up of a bunch of parts, right?
Totally.
So first of all, like, how does he identify? Does he identify as cyborg or as demon or as human or like a mix of all of these things? Like, what is he remembering? Like, the human seems to be the part that he's remembering in this particular instance because he was a Boy Scout. But does he also remember like demon experiences? Is the brain part of him the human part? Like, I have, but also like you've talked about body memory before, right? That we carry, our memory isn't just in our brains and in our heads, it's also in our bodies. And his body is made of a lot of shit, you know, some of it literal memory, like RAM, you know?
Well, and like, what is the point of making a creature out of multiple other creatures? If not to take advantage of these different parts. God, that sounds weird and gross.
It is.
But
it is. It's pretty terrible. Yeah.
Okay, but like this is the so body memory, like speaking of the weird nerdiness that lives in my headspace. So he says Scout's honor, and he does the 3-finger that we've all seen. And I'm looking at that, you know, and Spike says, you were a Boy Scout. Except that the gesture that Adam does is the Girl Scout gesture.
Right. You went down a little rabbit hole on this one.
I did. This is my favorite thing that happens.
I love that you
pretty when I glom
this.
onto something minor that has no bearing on the story or
I love
the
lots of things you do, and this is my favorite. Yes.
This is the kind of shit I do. So I'm like, wait a minute. I know that gesture. I was a Girl Scout. So I went down a web rabbit hole, and the difference between Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts appears to be the right angle of the elbow. So the Boy Scout hand signal has the elbow straight out from the shoulder, and the Girl Scout hand signal has the hand roughly at the height of the shoulder. So elbow kind of down by your side as opposed to straight out.
Well, we're presuming that his left arm his right arm is male. Maybe his right arm is female demon who was a Girl Scout.
Who knows? And, you know, so if it really is just like this angle of the elbow thing, I mean, presumably the non-binary and genderqueer Scout salutes are when your elbow is anywhere between down by your side and raised to 90 degrees. Like, who even knows? This is the kind of shit that I pay attention to, and
I love it.
Sorry, not sorry, I guess.
I love it.
I mean, that's what I have. That's what I have.
I love that you do that research. It never would have occurred to me because I was a Girl Scout back in the day, but I don't remember the difference.
Do you remember the Girl Scout?
Scout
do you remember the little, what is it? The little oath?
I don't remember.
Oh,
do you remember the oath?
Yeah, the oath. On my honor. Okay, everybody Girl Scout hand signal. 3 fingers up.
On my honor, I will try. Is that?
Yes, to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law.
Oh my goodness. Wow. All I remember is on my honor, I will try. And I can't even say that that's
on my honor,
actual memory.
But Lani, that's actually a great oath just for life. Because that's a complete thought. On my honor, I will try.
You know what? And absolutely. I am down with that. On my honor, I will try. I will try. I will try. I will fail a lot, but I will try.
I will fail, but I will try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So speaking of failure, I guess we talk about Riley.
You can't do that. That's not fair.
I'm sorry. I'll give you a moment. But Riley,
I need a minute.
Okay.
That was fantastic. Anyway.
Thank you. Every now and again, I can catch a segue. It's like catching a wave in surfing.
Every now and then, the writer brain sits up and takes notice in a big way, and then you just go with it, and I love it. And that is
just run with
speaking of shit you do that delights me. Anyway.
Aw, thank you, baby. So Riley, right? Here's his whole bigoted thing, right?
God.
You know, gotta say, I'm surprised. I didn't think Willow was that kind of girl. And then he says, I'm just saying it's weird to date someone who tries to eat you once a month. And my thing is, if it's only once a month, break up. Stop dating that person.
Everybody likes different stuff, but yes, I hear what you're saying. I support your life decisions.
This is true. If you like, okay, we'll just leave that where it is. I'm gonna leave that where it is.
Dining al fresco. It's fine. Fine, whatever.
Yeah, it's all good. Buffy has been with Riley. This is the thing that again, like, there's so many things about this relationship with Riley that just, like, it feels like the writers knew this relationship was no good the whole time, because Buffy has been with Riley all this time. Right? They have fallen in love. They have said the L word. They are absolutely in it. Right? And he still doesn't know that she used to be madly in love with a vampire with a soul. Like, that seems like the kind of thing that you would talk about in a relationship. Now, if you're just sleeping with somebody, you know, fine. That this is a love, you are my person relationship. Right? So that, to me,
I mean, that's how it's presented. Yes.
Right. And I don't know, like, I can't imagine that, because I am not a secret keeper, as anybody who has listened to me for any period of time. There's nothing in my life that y'all don't know about. Nothing. Like, I even talk to, like, the public. Like, I'm always, like, one of these, like, very, very open people. And I think that things that are private and things that you keep to yourself are legit, even in close relationships. But to me, like, this feels relevant. Like, your sexual romantic history, I think, are relevant to your current romantic partner, especially somebody that you are with who is your person. You know, like, once you're at the I'm your person thing, I feel like those things are relevant and need to be discussed, right?
I mean,
is that true, or is it just me the way that I am?
Well, okay. Here's, I guess. All right, I have many thoughts.
Yes, no, please do.
I have many thoughts.
I do feel like I'm wrong.
No,
because I have this thing about secrets too, or like not telling the whole story. But it's because of my personal history that I have a really, really strong reaction to that I don't feel is legit. It's one of the things that I'm. Well, let me have Lani's therapy moment. It's one of these things that I'm legitimately, like, struggling with right now. Right? You know, is like, how much does somebody have to tell me? And for right now, it's everything. Like, right. Because otherwise it really, really freaks me out because of the abusive relationship that I had. So I think I'm wrong, but I really want to hear, as I talk over you, I really want to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, the actual first thing I want to say, which you may want to edit out of the podcast, is that you are a total open book. Like 99.9% of the time. Every now and then we'll just be like mid-conversation about something, and I'll just like throw something out there, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I've done that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's like, different, because there's something I forget to tell.
It's so funny, though.
Right. If I've forgotten to tell you, if it's relevant at all, though, you know, I will share everything.
Like, oh yeah, I've done that. And I'm like,
what I do, right?
Wait.
Yeah,
I was having this. Yeah. Anyway, so
I am a surprise.
Plot twist.
Hey.
Then you just yell plot twist and run away.
All right, I will. Throw down a smoke bomb and plot twist and run.
Escape on a motorcycle. Rappel down the side of a building. You know, like normal stuff that people do in friendships. I mean, okay, but Buffy and Riley, we've alluded to Buffy talking with Riley about some of the angel stuff when Faith was an issue. Willow and Buffy are having a conversation, and Willow says, what did you tell him about Angel? And Buffy says something to the effect of, like, just the broad strokes. Oh, that sounds bad. Yeah. Just the, like, Just the broad strokes, if you know what I mean.
There you go. There you go.
But Buffy says something about like she glossed over the details.
Yeah.
Like but it's presented, I think, in this episode as like this is everybody's coming out episode. It's not just Willow saying out loud to someone else, Tara and I have a relationship. It's also Buffy getting to this place where she feels like she can tell Riley the details of this super important relationship that she had with a ensouled vampire. And also Riley's coming out moment about where he wants to be on the side of initiative versus not initiative. So I feel like it fits in with the kind of, I don't know, the friction in the Buffy Riley relationship of like initiative versus Scooby's.
Right.
Like I buy that she wouldn't have told him because I mean I wouldn't have told him. Like I'm like, oh, this dude, like he looks great doing push-ups and he's real sweet in a lot of ways, but I'm not going to tell him about the ensouled vampire I used to fuck. No,
right.
Like that's not no.
If he's not your person, yeah. But like the thing is, up until the I love you, you're the one, that shit, right? I'm completely absolutely. She doesn't owe him an explanation. Do they have that
conversation though?
I think they have.
Have they had
Although
that
actually they don't talk. They don't, right. Because he said he loved her, but he said it to Faith without realizing that it was Faith.
Right.
And then they specifically did not talk, which is Buffy did not want to talk.
Right.
In Superstar. So but they do seem to be like, this is my person, this is my boyfriend, this is my, like
they seem really coupley. And
I mean, they're clearly exclusive and very like together, so I don't know.
As evidenced by that scene where they wake up in the morning and she is pissed immediately. Like she's still mad. How many like I feel like I owe several people a public apology for that exact behavior.
That exact thing, right.
Like he says, he's like, I've been up for all of like 2 minutes and you're already completely pissed off at me. And I'm like, oh shit, I have done that. Like I have.
Yeah, I think we've all done that.
Sorry,
I think
everyone.
we've all done that.
It
happens.
You.
It happens. But yeah, I mean, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, but I was just going to say that their relationship dynamic is this kind of weird push-pull of like, we've seen Riley say, even in the previously on a couple of times, you're strong. I like it. Like he likes the idea of being involved with Buffy. But then like, does he really though? Does he really? Well, and then he says, they're hanging out at the exploded Sunnydale High School, which I think is an interesting choice, but okay. And he says something to the effect of like, you can tell me anything. And I'm like, can she though, dude? Like really? Like can she?
Well, clearly she doesn't think that she can because she hasn't, know? And I mean, it did come up and she gave him the Cliff's Notes, the very, very heavily edited Cliff's Notes, I think about that. So I find that just really kind of interesting, but
this is not a great relationship. Buffy and Riley are not an example of how to do a relationship. Like they do not have conversations about things that are probably relevant to their lives. Like,
which makes it really hard to accept him as the big love story now. So yeah, I don't know. It feels a little, and then we have this moment, of course, with Riley's "I'm an anarchist" thing, which he is not, because being anti-evil doesn't mean being anti-military or anti-government. And I feel like on a normal day,
it depends on how you define evil.
Well, okay, fair enough.
I mean,
but
that's a different podcast.
Not anti-specific government. But yeah, like government, like theoretical I mean, that's what anarchist is against, like, the organized running of things by a centralized government. But I feel like on a normal day, Riley would like appreciate that he hadn't changed, but the initiative or what he understood the initiative to be had actually changed. And yet here he is because this guy called them anarchists, and he said, I'm an anarchist. And I don't think he really meant that he's an anarchist, but something about that I was just like, whatever. This is supposed to be Riley's big moment, his big standing up, and he's like, I'm an anarchist, punch in the face.
I actually kind of love it. I'm
glad that you love it. I'm glad it didn't really ring for me, but I like that you liked it.
It's kind of, I find it enjoyable. I also find it very, there's something kind of sweet about Riley's coming out moment of like, because his colonel has said, like, no woman's worth it. Whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm an anarchist while he's punching this dude, which really means, like, yeah, bro, this woman is worth it. In an episode that's really about, like, women being worth it on some level. So,
yeah, kind of nice.
I mean, I like it. But
I'm glad you like it.
But we all know that I have a weird soft spot for Riley.
I'm so glad that you do, because I don't. And I just get sick of hearing myself bitch about Riley all the time. And I can imagine some people in the audience do too. So I'm really, really glad that you're there to like appreciate Riley for...
I enjoy him. He's a big golden retriever of a dude, but he's like... super... I don't know.
Yeah.
He's trying. Like,
yeah, he's on his honor, he will try.
Exactly. I'm not in the business of giving out gold stars and cookies to cishet white men who are just trying so hard. But I don't know. Something about Riley. I think it's the shirtless push-ups. I think I get distracted by hunks doing push-ups first thing in the morning. Anyway, moving on.
I appreciate it. Well, okay, one more thing is that I've talked a bit about my bizarro curly hair Buffy theory, right? That when her hair is curly, we know that the world is fundamentally different, right? Yeah. Which has been true up until like last week and this week. So like it's one of these things where like, yeah, okay, it's the theory has been ruined. They're not deliberately curling her hair only when something weird is going on, when something supernaturally weird has altered reality.
Well, except that we can queer this if you want to.
Oh yes,
because these are back-to-back bizarro sexuality episodes, for lack of a better term. This is like we have our like sex is destructive and dangerous, but also really great. And then we have this everybody's coming out to everybody else about their like deep, sexy time feelings. So I don't know. And it's not a full curl. It's like a wavy.
It's not a full curl. It's a wave.
It's like a wave. It's like a Victoria's Secret kind of a... It's great hair. I absolutely love it.
I like it. I like it.
I don't know. If you wanted to get a little bit more metaphorical with your Buffy curly hair theory.
Sure, with the bizarro world. I mean, technically, I don't think it's a supernaturally altered bizarro world.
No.
But you know what? I'm willing to accept your sex is weird, whole thing. We're being weird about sex.
Sex is weird, guys. Yeah. Sex is weird, man. Desire is weird. Gender is weird. It's all weird.
It's all really
Sometimes
really
you love a witch and a werewolf at the same time, and it's just so confusing.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you need two little Pezzes. Two little Pez dispensers. All right, Noelle, what are you wearing?
Oh my God, I'm wearing so much. This is a great episode for clothing.
Yeah.
So, we've got some just truly amazing early aughts fashion in our opening sequence with Willow and Tara. Tara's like lavender tie-dye top with the white sort of like amoeba circles, and Willow's pastel blue knit sweater with a floral embroidery that of course will become an emotional turning point. And then Willow's orange shirt has a chandelier print on it, but it sort of looks like the beginning of a mushroom cloud or a volcano about to erupt. And I could go on and read like a lot into that. But
I love it.
The bottom line with the two of them is they just look so cute together. They look so good.
Yeah.
And so, like, I look at them and they're this wonderful, like, time capsule of early aughts, like, lesbian teen witch fashion, and it makes my heart very happy. So, actually, if you go ahead and hit pause at about 3 minutes and 50 seconds into the episode, you'll see this beautiful tableau of everyone at the Scooby meeting. And the costume and set design is just gorgeous. Everybody looks so good at the Scooby meeting. There are many colors in the Scooby rainbow, but also I just feel like there was so much time and attention put into the look of all of these characters for the show as a whole, certainly, but this episode in particular. And and this is not the body language section of the podcast, but check out everyone's body language. It's great. It's great. It's masterful. I love it so much. I kept noticing Willow's green choker. It's like a crocheted green choker. Yeah. I don't know that it means anything in particular, except that I had something similar as a bracelet in college that my mom made. So my mom doesn't listen to this podcast, but shout out to my mom for crocheting a rad and very fashionable thing that Willow also happens to have. And I talked a little bit about this sort of softness that Tara has. Her makeup in this episode is highlighting that in a really, really great way. They do something probably in combination with the lighting, but something about that her makeup makes her look really Bambi-eyed and super vulnerable and very... She doesn't look like she's wearing a lot of makeup, which of course is always a lovely trick of movies and television to make us think that, we should all just be glamorous all the time. But Tara specifically looks really she looks very open and vulnerable. I think more so even than usual. And that feels really appropriate for this episode where she's on kind of shaky ground because she loves Willow and supports Willow and wants Willow to be happy. But she's like, oh, this might be the end of our romantic relationship. And I just, oh my God,
but she's
intense.
So wonderful with the I'll always be your friend. I'll always be there for you.
God,
Tara is too good.
She is, she's way more something, emotionally mature. She's way, she's we'll talk a lot about Tara.
We will talk a lot about
Tara.
Yeah.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Tara McClay podcast where we just talk. Come on. Also, I think, have we talked about Oz's coat?
I don't think we did.
Section?
No.
I think I have. Okay, I have this memory of talking about it. I'm sure every other Buffy podcast has talked about it because it's one of those things that's out there in the cultural, soup that we sort of all know that Oz wears this sheepskin coat. Yeah. So he is literally, and that was done on purpose. So he would literally be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah. But I want to address Willow's coat when they go for their little walk outside under the full moon. Killing me with the floral embroidery. She's wearing this puffy coat that sort of looks like a super femme version of Oz's coat, and it has this beautiful floral embroidery all over. It sort of kind of matches him, but then it also is reminiscent of her floral embroidered sweater that Tara will wear later on. So this this outer, there's something to be said here about the outer marker of relationship, something, blah, blah, blah. It's deep and meaningful, but also it's just a rad coat.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And Oz, has Oz never not looked great?
No, he always looks great.
He always looks fantastic.
Looks great. Yeah.
And here he's wearing this beautiful linen tunic in these really gentle pale colors, but with a dark burgundy t-shirt, I guess, underneath. as this great visual cue about how things are with him mentally and emotionally. So, you know, lots of like layers to, there are lots of layers to everyone in this episode, but Oz, in Oz's costuming, we have this great visual representation of, you know, outside he's super like all natural and chill and meditation and herbs and charms and chanting, and you know he's got this figured out, but underneath there's that like blood boiling dark werewolf that he's just barely got under the surface. And I love it anytime costumes can be a visual metaphor for what the character is feeling or what their true nature is. I love it. It's just one of my absolute favorite things. So for, you know, directors, budding directors out there, that's something to think about. You know, how can you work with your costume folks to, you know, depict that characters, not just the characterization, not just like, oh, this is a person who would own a jacket like this, but like what is going on emotionally with this person in the narrative scene. There's I will do this every now and then where I notice something that I think is just a coincidence, but you know what? This is the joy of doing a queer reading, a queer reading. When Tara goes to Willow in the library, Willow is wearing this purple tunic. We have a lot of purple on our lesbian witches, which I appreciate. But also Willow is wearing a necklace that kind of looks like the colors of the lesbian pride flag.
I love it.
Again, probably not a deliberate choice, probably not something that I don't even know how like well known the lesbian pride flag was in 2000. But
yeah, if it's a coincidence, though, that is a universal like moment of harmony coincidence. You know, sometimes you just have like one of those delicious zeitgeist moments, and we all just sometimes
go, "Yeah,
it happens.
It's great."
Yeah.
In a more mundane costuming moment, I love that Riley Finn, who is completely enormous, has managed to get Oz clothes that fit on his wee little werewolf man frame.
How thoughtful
we already know what
that?
Side Riley's going to come down on because he got Oz clothes that fit. But okay, here's an intersection of your interests and my interests with respect to clothing.
Yes.
The idea that you could just like put on fatigues or lab coats or whatever and sneak in anywhere is so, first of all, it's very Scooby-Doo.
I will tell you from personal experience that if you hold a clipboard, you can walk in anywhere and do whatever you want.
You have not sneaked into somewhere with a clipboard.
I once stole... Like, we had a show that we were doing when I was in college, and we didn't have tables or chairs because we forgot to get them, and that was part of the thing that we needed for the set. So I went into the dining hall across the street with a clipboard, held the door open, while all of the people from my team stole the tables and chairs, and brought them in, and we brought them back like an hour and a half later, and nobody said a word.
You're an anarchist.
I am a troublemaker. I'm very dangerous. But I mean, like, if you have a clipboard, you can walk in almost anywhere and do almost anything, and nobody will say a word to you.
But like, okay, but I have worked jobs where we had people who were like contractors, where like maybe I didn't know their names, but I knew everyone. Like, I knew people by sight. So this idea that you could just, like, it's so funny. It happens in fiction all the time.
Yeah, you walk in with a clipboard. A clipboard gives you authority. If you got a clipboard and like a name tag, you're in. You're in.
I mean, I guess. And they do call it out a little bit with Spike complaining about what he has to wear to sneak into the initiative. And Willow says, you do sort of look like an evil olive.
I love it.
But I mean, it's something that I love and hate about fiction is that disguises always work.
Right.
even, and maybe especially when they're these like barely there disguises. You know, a beautiful woman puts on a pair of glasses and pulls her long hair back into a bun, and suddenly she's totally unrecognizable,
No,
even though she's
scientist.
the literal slayer. And like, isn't the initiative like looking for her? What the hell? What is happening?
I know, but like, the thing is, though, that like if you actually, and this is something that you do in writing too. Like one of the things, like if I tell people if you want to pull off a twist, right, then you need to work with the presumptions, like work with the momentum of the presumptions that your audience already has, and like hide, seed the twist in those presumptions, and just let it go. But the thing is, too, also that I've said a lot is that reality is no defense for fiction, because the fact is that despite the fact that in reality, seriously, and I know this is dangerous, I am not condoning any shit that you people are about to get up to with clipboards, but seriously, yes, if you have a clipboard, you are working within the presumptions of the people that are there, that if you have a clipboard, then somehow you have a job to do and you've been authorized to do that job because you have a clipboard. Like, who carries a clipboard if they're not working, right? If they're not supposed to be doing what they're doing, right? But the fact that you can do that in reality, again, reality is no defense for fiction. Just because it can happen in reality or because it does happen in reality doesn't mean that it's necessarily believable within fiction, because fiction is not about reality. It is about believability. And so I think that you do have, despite the fact that I just made the argument that no shit, you really can do that, that you're right. You're absolutely right. Because the thing is that it is realistic, but it's not terribly believable. And fiction needs to be believable or your audience isn't going to ride along with you. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and also like power of, being like a pretty woman with white skin and a clipboard. Like there are more factors here than...
Yes, please, yes. Let me acknowledge my white privilege and take that back a little bit. I'm sorry.
But
yes,
it's also
if
just
you're
like...
a white person with a clipboard, generally
if you're a
you
white
can get
person
away
with a clipboard.
anything.
Like I just, as you were saying...
I'm sorry. I apologize. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Or a collared shirt, or like a, I mean, I guess that's, and I guess that's what the lab coat is about too. Like if you see a person in a white coat, well, they didn't just like throw that on over their clothing, right? Like they obviously are supposed to be wearing that white coat.
Exactly.
Anyway.
No, it's really true.
Anyway,
really true.
It's one of those things that in fiction always, it's like, it's the push me, pull you. It's like, I'm like, oh, I'm so here for this, but also this is completely bananas. Like it is backwards pants day.
It is completely bananas. Like, yes, it is.
I don't know. That's what I got. I already talked about Riley, punching his, punching the
guy.
colonel. Although I do like that he's wearing like the initiative is wearing this like olive green, this evil olive. And Riley, when he says, I'm an anarchist and punches out the colonel, he's wearing a burgundy shirt because he's like, he's opposite on the color wheel, right? Like he's going against the initiative, but also he's like going with his passion because fuck you, dude in authority. Like this woman is worth it.
Absolutely. All right. So, wow, that was a pretty good run on What Are You Wearing? I really like that. What's your girl power moment of the week? Oh, wait. Let me not forget.
Oh, not with a girl power bit.
I have to get Spike in there. What's your girl power moment?
I mean, Willow coming out to herself visibly right before she comes out to Buffy and says it's complicated because of Tara, and we see it register on her face that like, here we go, we're gonna acknowledge it
so good
out loud textually to my best friend. And holy shit. Like, if you've ever had a conversation like that, the strength and power that it takes to do that. And I just, oh God, it's so good. It's so good.
It was really good. All right, so for this week's moment in Riley, actually, this is the most I've liked Riley, I think, so far. I like that he realizes he was wrong and he self-corrects, after a while with his bigoted understanding of demons and werewolves and all of that. I love that he rescued Oz. I love now that you brought up that he brought Oz clothes that fit. Also shows some real, thoughtfulness in Riley. And stood up to the shithead commanding officer. So I think that those are all really good. It's the most I've liked Riley. And I didn't have to rely on liking Mark Blucas either. These are actual character moments for Riley that I liked.
Good point. This is some
So I didn't
actual
have to go
good
back to
Riley
that.
and not just like Mark Blucas's big arms.
Mark Lucas is, and the thing is, I like his delivery. I'm not gonna reduce Mark Lucas as a human down to just the fact that he's fucking beautiful, because he is. But yeah, I like, there's a lot of things about Mark Lucas as an actor that I really like. But Riley is always a problem for me. So I'm really glad that I have Riley character moments that I can enjoy. All right, Noelle, so what's your favorite part?
Oh my God. Can the whole episode be my favorite part? I mean,
It
except
can.
for the Adam stuff.
Yes.
But okay,
because
but
who
really,
cares?
like if I have to choose a favorite part, it's Tara saying, "I want my room to be Willow friendly." It's such a baller move. It's so good, especially for someone who we hear actually struggle to speak on a somewhat regular basis. Tara knows how to talk to women.
Aha, I like it.
Damn, Tara.
Go, girl. Go, girl.
Go.
I like it.
What about you, Lani? What's your favorite part?
Oh, God. At the end, right now, and then blowing out the candle. And oh, my God, it is so, I love that. Every time. And then the screen goes dark and I'm just, my little heart just fills with love and happiness and everything. And the world is okay suddenly.
Yes. Yes. If you enjoyed this conversation and would like to join in, come find us on social media. Lani is at Lani Diane Rich on Twitter, and I'm at Noelle Aloud on Instagram. And the hashtag is Still Pretty.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by the Chipperish media producers who support us on Patreon at the power producer level. These people are the reason why Still Pretty is coming to you free and ad-free right now. So thank you to our January producers: Jonathan, Shelley, Kristen, Noelle, Alyssa, Erica, Abigail, Alice, and Sarah. And this week's special message for our power producers: I feel like some part of me will always be waiting for you. Like if I'm old and blue-haired and I turn the corner in Istanbul and there you are, I won't be surprised because you're with me,
To find out how you too can support Chipperish Media, visit patreon.com/Chipperish. Other ways to show your support: write a great review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends about the show, or go out for the less confusing waffles.
We'll be back next time with the Yoko Factor, the 20th episode of Season 4. Until then, you were a Boy Scout?
Parts of me.